Hi, and welcome to the Ascension Playground. My name is Ursie, and I'm here today with Robbie, and we would like to use today as an opportunity to talk to you about how we co-created the Ascension Playground together with our friend Jimmy.
Good morning, Ursie.
Hi, Robbie.
Hi. Yeah, you and I and Jimmy decided that we wanted to create a place that we and others could come to and talk about all things metaphysical and share our insights and hopefully expand our consciousness relative to the spiritual nature of our being.
Yeah, and there's so many wonderful YouTube channels and Facebook, streams. I think our idea of creating this idea of a triangle of support with one another is much more towards an Aquarian model of how we work in teams. And so, is there anything you want to say about that beautiful triangle of you, Jimmy, and I?
Well, it's a collaborative effort, no doubt, but yeah, there is significance to the number 3 and the triangle. And of course, the triangle is kind of the first and most stable element in nature. And we formed the triangle kind of on this notion that we wanted to create kind of an entity, initially for us to kind of share our thoughts and our experiences. And now, like many other channels, we're going to expand for the purposes of bringing, our light and the light of others into a greater community.
Yeah, we were just having weekly chit chats with you, Jimmy, and I. And the idea that, oh my gosh, some of the conversations we were having, we thought others might be interested. So you and I and Jimmy, we rallied to get our tech support going and learning how to use StreamYard and Zoom to capture some of these little chit chats. It's been fun, and Jimmy will join us when he's able to as well. But today there's going to be a focus on introducing the playground by learning more about you, Robbie. So we're going to do this as a mini introduction to Akashic Bob. How do you feel about that?
Well, I welcome the opportunity, and maybe to qualify it just a little bit is that this is the first in a series of 3 videos. So I'm going to be able to share a little bit more about me today. And then, of course, on another video, you're going to share a little bit more about yourself and your journey. And then, of course, in the 3rd video, Jimmy can share more about himself as well. So,
yeah, and the beautiful thing that that the 3 of us have in common is, 1, we've been on a spiritual path. 2, we all 3 love this idea of healing. And to our surprise, we enjoyed learning from Eric Pearl and his reconnective healing modalities. We were trained in that years ago. And some fascinating things have happened since the 3 of us started really activating this triad of support. And you and I pulled a card because an animal spirit wanted to come and play as we start learning more about you and introducing you. So if you don't mind, let me share with our audience who has come in to play. Here we go. And using Colette Baron Reed's Spirit Animal Oracle deck, this is who came through. This is number 22, Dragonfly Spirit, with the message for us: truth transcends illusion. Robbie, what do you think Dragonfly is saying with that message?
well, my take on it would be is that light transcends darkness. And so we seem to be in this period of time where if we can bring truth and light forward, this is going to transcend the darkness that we seem to be experiencing right now.
Yeah, and so many people who might tune into this know you as Akashic Bob. So with Dragonfly showing up with a little crown, and the number 22, a master builder number. It feels good that this gorgeous flying creature is with us. So let me stop my share. There we go. Thank you, Dragonfly. Okay, Robbie, are you ready for the first big introduction question? Because we'll have 3 questions for you today. Drum roll.
It almost feels like I'm on the hot seat here.
You ready?
Go ahead.
But you're used to that hot seat. Okay, so the question that I get to ask you today is, let us know a little bit more about your spiritual path. What were the circumstances that led you to going on a spiritual path in the beginning?
I think that it really started with a healing path. About 3 decades ago, I was injured. I was working in an office building that was being remodeled. And at that time, they were using just copious amounts of these really toxic chemicals all over the place. And so on a daily basis, I was kind of inhaling and immersed in all of this stuff. And I didn't realize the potential damage or harm that they could do. And they did. They made me, there was a result to that. And I went through what medically you would refer to as a sensitization. And so even though I had been injured by specific volatile chemicals, I became sensitized to a wide variety of chemicals, many of which we experience in our everyday life. So for example, if I were to pick up the Sunday paper and start reading it, I would start having respiratory problems just from the emissions, for example, from all of the ink on the page and that type of thing. And so I decided it was actually problematic. It affected me at work, how long I could work. And symptoms were largely like upper respiratory and that type of thing, but there were cognitive issues as well. So I went to, obviously I went to the doctor. I went to a highly recommended specialist involved in occupational medicine and that type of a thing. And Western medicine didn't hold a cure for me. And in fact, one doctor suggested that I was making this whole thing up.
Oh,
and
that must have felt horrible.
I was really offended by that, of course. But so I decided that I would take an alternate route. And initially I felt that, well, if I had fractured my immune system, maybe if I just had the right medicine, or maybe if I just had the right combination of enzymes or something like that, that I could, be able to correct the situation. And so I completely changed my lifestyle. I went all organic, did juicing, daily exercises and that type of a thing. And I became really, really, really healthy. In fact, I never even got a cold for many years.
Wow.
But the problem is that I was still reacting to what we would consider to be toxins or volatile compounds. And so, like say, for example, if you painted your house, I wouldn't be able to visit you. Or for example, I wouldn't be able to buy a new car. People like that new car smell, but that would actually create a significant problem for me. So then I decided that, well, perhaps I had become aware of this whole notion of basically energetic healing. And so I began to look at some very ancient and traditional applications, like acupressure, acupuncture, and that type of a thing. And then as I began to explore it more, I discovered many other energetic healing modalities like Reiki or Shiatsu and that type of thing. And I was intrigued by this. And so I actually took a class to basically learn how to do hands-on healing. And about the same time, I found myself in a bookstore under the New Age section at the time. And I discovered a series of books about Atlantis. and it was channeled material. And in the book contained different modalities related to crystalline healing. And so I thought, that sounds interesting. So I decided to work with that. And I began to have results. And I found that both intellectually, mentally, I resonated with the idea, but I was actually physically resonating with this whole idea of healing energetically. So.
Well, I got to tell you, so it sounds like from one perspective that your body served as a catalyst to compel you to go on this spiritual healing journey, that it was in search of beyond Western medicine, what else can work for you. And when you weren't believed by a doctor, you know, many have faced that same kind of, maybe you're making it up, but you use that as another way to inform yourself to dig deeper. And you know, every time you talk about the word Atlantis, we're going back in time, you know, so your body.
We are going back, way back in time. And so I thought, well, perhaps because these things, these modalities resonated with me, and I seemed to have kind of an innate knowing about it, or trust at least. Initially, it was a trust that these things were valid, and the energy was visceral. I mean, I could really feel it. And so I continued my healing learning. I became a reconnective healer, and that's a program that you went through as well. And I actually began to combine crystals with reconnective healing energies, and discovered that the crystalline geometries actually reinforced and amplified the reconnective energies. And that became a powerful modality for me. And
Wow, well, that's a good segue into the second question about if you were to really go deep when you look back with the healing journey, which tool, multidimensional tool, let's say, really helped inform you? Was it the records?
well, on the healing journey path, I became aware of the records, and that resonated with me. And I saw that as a venue with which basically I could continue to explore kind of the nature of, I could explore potential remedies, potential modalities that would also begin to benefit me. And there were other issues in my life in terms of professional and personal relationships. And I began to understand that we may have incarnated with these people before, and that there may have been a dynamic or an energy that needed to be resolved. And so coming from the perspective, so coming from the perspective that we plan our incarnation, we have a blueprint, which obviously we can change, and we can talk about that more in the future. But I decided to go through a program to learn how to open my own records. And I found that extremely useful. And it began to explain some of the relationships that I had chosen, began to explain some of the dynamics I was experiencing and why my soul intended me to experience those dynamics. And I just found it as a really powerful tool, because we incarnate here and we don't get an owner's manual. And so Akashic is this little bridge, it's this little owner's manual where you can go in and you can begin to explore kind of the nature of your journey.
Well, that was a question I was going to ask for any listener who may not understand the word Akashic, Akasha, or as Cryon says, the Akash. Could you just share with us your personal definition of what is the Akashic?
Well, the Akashic is a universal energy, and the records are simply our fingerprint within this universal field of energy. And our Akashic records, sometimes referred to as our book of life,
Mm.
is just simply a record of all of our experiences, all of our thoughts, all of our emotions that we have experienced through all of our incarnations. And when you explore that at the planetary level, it's all of your incarnations on Earth here.
Do you think back in the Atlantean times, back in Atlantis, do you think they were mining the Akash? Was that something that may have come up on your journey? Just wondering if, as we look at the Akash seemingly as an ancient history, a book of life, do you think the Atlanteans were also um,
I think
looking
so.
at?
I think so. I think if you go back to the Lemurians and you go back to the Atlanteans, they were very familiar with the Akash.
Yeah. And then going with your healing journey, one thought that always comes up for me is, wow, what if we find the lifetime where we were the healthiest? You know, whether we were male or female doesn't matter, but if it was a lifetime where we were healthiest, to understand that as we open up our own records and then have that lifetime kind of be reminding ourselves in this lifetime. You think there's a potential, like you get lighter, you get healthier once we're aware of what we're here to learn and we have that message, okay, I'm here to learn how to love myself or how to deal with relationships and not being so heavy, but to be lighter. But for our body to be in balance with our emotions and our thinking, like tapping into the Akash and finding the healthiest time. Have you seen that to be something that's helpful for others?
I think it is. I think it's a healing exercise.
Mm.
The other thing that moving into the Akash does is that you get to remember your magnificence,
Mm.
that you're much greater than something temporal that's happening to you. And so if you're struggling, if you're really challenged, and you're getting a little bit depressed about that, or even if you're very depressed about it, you get to move to a place where um, you know that you're greater than this. This is just something temporal that you're moving through.
I think that's a real healthy reminder, especially today when the outside world feels so chaotic and uncertain, and there's so much, you know, drama outside. So when you have just said, when we remember our magnificence, like who we truly are as spiritual beings, that this too shall pass. And that saying almost puts us back into this position of center.
It does. It begins to ground you in a greater reality and a greater understanding of who you are as a being. And that's a powerful notion.
Mm.
The other thing that you have the opportunity to explore within the Akash is really any subject that you'd like to. So, for example, obviously, with many, many lifetimes, the people that are watching this, more likely than not, have had hundreds of lifetimes, and they've learned a great deal, and that's an innate knowledge that they can tap into. So, for example, you might have a question that might be fairly esoteric, but perhaps there's a lifetime where you had a great understanding of that or a more complete understanding of that. So you can begin to tap into a greater source of knowledge.
Wow. I mean, and we'll have deeper conversations about the records and upcoming dialogue. Let's go back to you, Robbie. We've learned about your spiritual path being hugely informed by the body, the physical issues that you experience through perhaps toxic overload and how to heal your body. And one of the tools that you've picked up certainly includes energy healing and working with the Akashic records. Now, the third question to get to know you better is we want to hear what secret passion of yours
Hmm.
Can you share with us now that no one really knows about, that you just love doing? It's like when no one's watching, this is a passion that fills your cup. We want to know the dish.
Yeah, well, that's kind of interesting because, well, maybe it's something that has kind of shifted over the years. At one time, I really enjoyed art. So, for example, I really enjoyed being an artist because I could, when I was painting, it was one of those times where I would lose track of time because it was, that place that you go when you're in that zone as a painter. And of course, you're very familiar with that. So, but about 12 years ago, I was called to, in one of the local music shops here, to learn about how to produce music. And
Mm,
then I discovered it's something that I really love. And so right now, my passion, when I have the time, would be to compose, produce music. So,
that's wonderful. So it's interesting how music, math, geometry, and architecture, um, when I think about you and how the number 22 came forward through the dragonfly spirit, there is this resonance of structure, you know.
yeah, very definitely. I mean, well, first off, to begin with, the creative process is very similar. So, for example, if I'm designing a building, obviously what I'm looking at are various ordering systems, maybe functional ordering systems, perhaps they're structural ordering systems, perhaps they're related to environmental or the environment. But there's a synthesis of different orders.
Mm,
And I recall looking at a manuscript of one of Bach's preludes, and there was this wonderful order to it. And it's something that I really resonated to. So there's a similar order. So the common denominator is order. So, and
order reminds me of
it's,
like you putting a little hat on with the judge and order, order.
well, it's it's the notion that it's not any given note, but it's the articulation of it. So Beethoven's Fifth Symphony is based on a variation of 5 different notes, essentially, effectively. So
Oh, I love that. Well, it's been so great getting to know you a little bit more personally. And thank you for sharing in the creation of an Ascension Playground. And we'll have a little mini intro of myself and Jimmy next. But from my heart and Robbie's heart, we just want to thank all the listeners. We're creating a forum for us to have conversations about what you're finding on the pathway of a spiritual awakening or healing modalities that work for you. Because together, if we share and have these conversations, together we can lighten up. And lighten up is a metaphor for really having a lighter heart, engaging with this new earth energy that's on the planet right now, as we're experiencing shifts in our bodies, in our awareness, and our experiences, especially in our dream time. What would you say to that, Robbie?
I would say that that's really well said. As we move into this new energy in the future, we're going to be talking about some new tools available to us or tools that we already have, how they're expanding. And so many people, many light workers have gifts, and I'm sure that they're experiencing an expansion of those. But it is a new energy. And so we're in the process of creating a new consciousness and a new future for our planet. So
I love that. And
here's the
we're
place.
getting we're
Talk
getting the
about it.
groundwork set, to help navigate. So we could put out an open invitation. Let's say we're going to get beyond the structural setup of the playground. And then our invitation is, if you have journeyed and have learned a particular tool to help you navigate in the multidimensional energies and fields, whether it's through card reading or artwork, singing, music, um, multidimensional medicine wheels. These are the types of of tools that we'd like to bring on the playground and just share from an unscripted chit chat perspective. And we're here together really as a second wave of our enjoyment of people like Nancy Jean in her garden, and Bathrobe Danny Shea, and Lilac Lantern Andrea. So we are really creating this playground as a fun forum, basically as a result of listening and absorbing, and now offering a creative platform for others to step forward if this is something that feels good to you. What do you think? You feel like that's a good wrap there, Akashic Bob?
I think it's a really good wrap. I think, I look forward to not only sharing our insights, but being able to experience the insights and perspectives of other people that we can bring to the playground. So,
yeah, so we embrace each of you, especially in this very profound year of 2022. It is a time and a year to help one another balance in these new energies. So thanks for coming to the Ascension Playground, and we hope you'll come back soon. Thank you.
I know.
Bye.